I'm joined this week by my two. We finally have the full crew here. We finally have the full new and improved recap hosting crew here. I won't even. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. Who am I even joined by tonight? Who are you guys?
Oh, thank you so much. I am Mallory, and I am the Boston Uprising beat writer for the Game Haus. So I've been
Yeah, I
having a
mean, this has
great
been an
time.
exciting stage for you, Mallory. Yeah, smile.
Great! I'm having. It's
Yep.
fine. It's fine.
And who else am I joined with tonight?
I'm Zach. I was here last week. I'm the Gladiators writer. Uh, yeah.
That's
I don't
right.
know what else
That's
to
all we
say.
need. And my name's Connor. Goopy Canoopy, as I'm otherwise known. I'm technically the San Francisco beat writer right now, filling in for our friend who is traveling for the summer. We'll be back though. And I'm also just covering a lot of other general stuff, breaking news kind of person for the Game House. So this will be moving forward your consistent recap hosting crew. And again, what the purpose of this show is, we've had interviews the past 2 weeks, so it's kind of confuddled this a little bit, but generally what the purpose of this show is to catch you up on what's happened the past weekend in the Overwatch League. We're going to run through the games. We're going to crown our player of the week, which has a shifting sponsorship each week based on whatever we're feeling at the time. And then we'll get into some other segments where we kind of debate certain things about the weekend, all just to try and give a good, wholesome, fruitful discussion of what's happened, and then to try and prepare us to, for another week in the Wild West of the Overwatch League. That's kind of what we're about these days. So, first thing we like to do, though, before we jump into anything else, the only consistent thing we've ever done on this show is resetting our watch, where we just give you an update on what we've been up to and what we've been writing about. We've already mentioned kind of what kind of writers we are, but maybe giving a more specific glimpse into our lives a little bit. So, Mallory, since your at least recaps life has been a little depressing lately, I'll let you start us off. I'll give you first dibs. You win in this, because I know Boston hasn't been winning in a lot of things lately. I'm sorry. That'll be the last one.
Fun. This is how it feels great. I know, resetting my watch. I've basically just been doing that. It's real sad girl hours on Twitter, but for the most part, it's going all right. We're looking forward. We're gonna be okay. Maybe after Thursday we'll be okay. I don't want to think about Thursday, but after
Yes.
that we'll be okay. And I don't know. I'm looking forward to doing some cool stuff in the
Okay.
break. I get to write for a couple other teams since some of our kind coworkers are going
Mm-hmm.
up to Atlanta.
Woo.
So I'm going to be writing about some new teams, and it's going to be fun for me. I like doing that. I like paying attention to teams that I don't have to write about all the time. I like to learn new things. I got a taste of that when I covered a Toronto game, and it was
Yeah.
super interesting. So I'm looking forward to that. I guess that's going to be a good weekend.
Awesome.
It's going to be fun.
Awesome. And Zach, what have you been up to lately?
Nothing much. Had a game covered on Friday for me because of the wonderful, wonderful beat writers of
Nice.
the Game House. We got the D&D streams that we do on the Game House Twitch on Tuesdays, so you can catch me there tomorrow. Other than that, yeah, just living life, chilling. Been playing Borderlands 2 again.
Yeah,
It's a
I
great
mean,
time.
E3 just got me so hyped for that franchise in general. So I mean,
Oh, I cannot wait for Borderlands 3, but my fiance has recently decided she wanted to start playing Borderlands 2 because we had not finished our
Nice.
playthrough, so
what a
what
great
we're
way to
doing right
bond
now.
as well. So man, that's
Oh,
right
yes.
there. That's good. I've been like I said, I've been covering the San Francisco Shock as well, which has kind of been an interesting time to cover this team. We've seen them kind of dip down a lot more than has been the norm for them. Also, just been on a lot of breaking news lately, covering stuff in Overwatch the game. Like we had the developer update today and the Baptiste short story release. So I've been kind of on those things constantly, just refreshing Twitter at the top of every hour, it seems like, because teams always release things at the top of the hour. You can always count on it. And it can happen in any hour, pretty much from like 10 to 5. So it's kind of rough, but, that's what it is. And then I've been previewing for Contenders. NA Contenders started today. It's actually happening right now over on twitch.tv/Overwatch Contenders, I think is the tag. So you should have both tabs open, because it's always support T2 o'clock here at the Game House. Always. It was a good. Triumph was playing Montreal, and it was actually a great game. I think Triumph was up, so that was cool. So, yeah, support them, but also support us. Support everything. Okay, so The first thing we're going to do on our recap shows, besides resetting our watch, which is kind of like the preface, this is kind of like the introduction before we get to Chapter 1. What we're going to do is we're going to run through all of the games for the weekend, just providing scores so we have a baseline understanding of what we're talking about. So I'm going to start us off on Thursday. To open up the weekend, the Houston Outlaws defeated the San Francisco Shock 3-2. And yes, that is correct. You are not just hearing things, that actually happened. Then followed after that, the Shanghai Dragons beat the Atlanta Reign 3-2 in a close match. Then the Dallas Fuel shockingly lose to the Chengdu Hunters 1-3 in what many considered a big upset and kind of the decline for Dallas weekend. We'll talk about that more later. And then the Spark lost to the Titans in kind of a top of the table heavyweight matchup 1-3. And then we had games on Friday as well.
Moving on to Friday, we had Paris Eternal, their hot streak end a little bit as they fell 1-3 versus the Excelsior. We had Toronto's woes continue against the soaring London Spitfire with another 1-3 loss. Boston fell to the hands of the soaring Houston Outlaws 4-0. And finally, to close out Friday, we had my Gladiators defeating the Philadelphia Fusion 3-1. Absolutely shields up.
Yay. Saturday, it started with the Justice and the Spark, and the Spark won 3-0, which means they tied a map. So not that bad for the Justice, I guess. After that, it was back-to-back 4-0s. Seoul beat Atlanta 4-0. Titans beat Dallas 4-0. And very surprisingly and very happily to me, #wings out, the Valiant beat the Charge 3-1. Thank you, Connie.
Chicken wings out. The chicken wings are out. Shields only. All right.
Shields
and then that brings us to the final day of action, where we had the San Francisco Shock 4-0ing the Seoul Dynasty in what was, I think, the match of the week for the Overwatch League. Turned out not to be the match of the week. Then the Florida Mayhem lose 1-3 to Paris. Florida kind of continues doing their thing. Philly beat Boston 2-1 in an incredible series. It was just chaos abounding. We'll probably talk about that more later as well. And then to close out the weekend, the Justice again fall. Shields up to the Gladiators 0-4 as the Justice's woes continue. That brings us with a whole picture. I mean, this seems like a no-brainer, but we're awarding our WatchHaus Player of the Week. Mallory, who is this sponsored by this week? Who is our sponsor for the WatchHaus Player of the Week this week? I'm putting you on the spot.
I already got this. It's sponsored by
Lemon Water.
Because our WatchHaus Player of the
Week
is
it's Dante. Yes, our WatchHaus Player of the Week is Dante. Why is it lemon water though? Maybe I'm just a dweeb.
No, because Dante is a cursed child, and the thing he likes to drink the most is lemon water. And it's not what you think. It's not like lemonade. He literally just takes water and then he puts lemons in it, and then he puts it in a cup, and then he drinks it.
That's kind of like getting lemon with your water at restaurants, though, right? I mean, is it like, or is?
Yeah, but he
like a lot.
Squirts it.
That's.
Yeah, I love him to death,
cursed.
but.
Well, cursed as he may be, he absolutely popped off this week. Sombra is becoming a fixture among great teams, and he has absolutely shown up for Houston so far. They kind of brought him in to play Tracer after their Season 1 Tracer woes, and he's kind of turned into their Sombra expert, which he was also a very good Sombra. So he is a huge part of what led Houston to their 2 victories over San Francisco, over Boston. Him kind of being the X factor, being the Sombra that the other team didn't have. He was able to be for that team. So yeah, I mean, it was we debated about this a little bit though. I mean, we talked about some other players, but we felt like it had to be someone from Houston, right, guys?
It had to be.
I mean, it's a bottom 3 team winning 2 games and immediately being thrown into the Stage 3 playoff race. So.
Yeah.
And one of those teams they beat is the San Francisco Shock.
Even though Super did not like that very much. Super had a lot to say last night about it.
Yeah, I mean, he was freaking out at Sure4 on a Vast stream. He got mighty tilted. Sure4 got him. I was so glad to see it. And I'm sure as a Gladiators fan, you loved it too.
My boy. We have Sure4 back on stage, and we have Sure4 back owning people on streams in multiple ways. So I am a
I
happy
would bet.
boy.
That's incredible. So, I mean, our player of the week is a Sombra player. So that is going to bring us to our main segment for the night, our main topic of debate. And this is a little something we're going to call to Sombra or not to Sombra. That is the question. So what we're going to be looking at here is 7 teams that we think are in a position where they're at a critical decision point. They're either doing well, and they may have some questions regarding that, or they've been struggling, all things considered, and need to really reevaluate their philosophy in the face of this kind of shifting meta. For those who aren't super aware, we've kind of shifted away from a traditional 3-3 to a Sombra kind of 3-2-1, and she's become a mainstay among the teams that are doing the best in the league. I mean, Shanghai, Houston, New York, where they've been playing Sabiobi. So we're going to look at 7 teams. We're going to kind of debate it out, what we should do with these teams. Should they play Sombra? Should they just, if they're bad at it, should they just not and kind of take Houston's approach and do what they're good at? Let's jump right into it. First one we're going to look at is the NYXL. To Sombra or to not Sombra? That is the question. SBB or Meko, what do you guys think?
Yes.
Why?
Sabiobi needs stage time. As kind of clunky and a little rusty he looked in the first game that he played Sombra, I think since they've played very well. They took down arguably one of the hotter teams in the Overwatch League this week when they played Paris. And I think that New York has consistently shown that they are a top team, and adapting to the meta is something they're good at. So if they decide not to do it, then they decide not to do it, and they're still good. But for the sake of Sabiobi, I think we should let them. They should Sombra, and that is the answer.
Okay, Mallory, you're nodding your head yes. Can I explain why?
Zach said it all. Sabiobi, let him do what he wants. I missed him. I love him. I saw him on stage again, and my heart just went, it's him. He's the married man meta. He's so good. Even if you can tell that Sombra's not his main character because he's a transfer specialist, and you can tell that he's a little bit clunky, he still looks so clean doing it. It doesn't even matter. And Zach is also right because Nixel can literally do whatever they want. Their Ghost is still clean. Meko is still one of the best divas.
Yeah.
Pretty insane. But putting in Sabiobi and just for fun and seeing what they can do with Sombra Goats to see how it can mess with the whoever they're playing, it's fun. I like watching it. I always like watching NYXL, but I like watching them more when I get to see Sabiobi because he's always so happy. You pan to his face cam and he's always just having a good time.
He is. I mean, he's going to sell him jerseys if he plays more too. He's just such a charming, good poster child for the league for NYXL. So I completely agree. I guess if I were to play devil's advocate though, I mean, Meko has proven that he can play Sombra fairly capably as well, and then if you are playing Meko, you then have the option to go to Goats if things are not working out, if you're in a pinch or something, or it's a map that's maybe more conducive to traditional Goats and not Sombra. So if that's the case, wouldn't you want to stick with someone you could switch to, or is Sabiobi still the better option?
I think you do have a fair point there, but they are able to make substitutions between maps, and I think they know the map set before it's gonna as they're happening. So if they can tell that, hey, our Sombra Goats aren't working today, or this is a map that we've played time and time again in scrims, and we just can't seem to run a Sombra Goats here, you throw Meko in because he really is a very solid player. There's no denying that if Sabiobi wasn't on that team, Meko would continue to shine. But I think that Meko's had 2 real good stages. Let's say Sabiobi loose and let him play some, especially in this stage where they kind of got embarrassed a little bit by the Titans when we finally saw that, and they're really going to be reaching for that stage.
That's fair. And a good point that you make with flexibility too is let's say you're in NYXL and you want to play Sabiobi, you still in a sense have a flex option because you also have Liberal and Nene in the game, where then your second option becomes a DPS composition, not traditional Goats. But you still have a second option in that scenario where you can still play another lineup. You're not forced to play Sombra 3-2-1 or Sombra Goats, whatever you want to call it. So they do have that going for them as well because you have just this legendary DPS core. And it's people thought New York was crazy preseason for this. What are you going to do with 5 DPS? And in the end, Pine's still riding the bench. But the meta has kind of panned out in a way where they have been able to use these DPS players in kind of a unique and cool way. So I agree with you guys. I just want to be a little bit, I gotta defend Meko a little bit, but I do agree.
The more depth, the better. Like I think we're showing like last season or before this season started. I think I would have disagreed that more depth is better. Having watched London's run through the season playoffs to win it all by only having one person they could substitute in. But looking at it now, looking at how well San Francisco's done the past two stages with the amount of players they have, in New York, who's been able to have Xavier will be on the bench, and Pine, who hasn't seen barely any minutes. Like they have, anything changes at the drop of the hat, they suddenly have this incredible player that they can drop.
So that's a great segue for our next team. So you brought up San Francisco. This is actually a really good point because San Francisco is super interesting because they're similar to New York in a way because you have it's like they're a little bit the same. So New York substitutes out their diva player to bring in a Sombra. It seems like for San Francisco, your Zarya player has been transitioning over to Sombra. But in the same sense, each has a pocket DPS player that's just kind of sitting on the bench. New York has Pine, and San Francisco has Striker, this star DPS player from Boston last year, who was a Tracer specialist, which that skill set seems to transition to Sombra really easily. So my question for you two is, Sinatra's been questionable on Sombra when he's played it, and San Francisco has heavily resisted playing it overall. But at what point does Striker come in, and do you make changes if you're San Francisco? Or do you? I'll leave this open to you guys.
I have a lot of feelings.
Yes,
because
that's why I wanted to ask this to you.
I know, I love him, and I miss him. However, I don't know, it's hard, because I was literally talking about this, I think, last night, how Sinatra is one of the best players in the league who has, the most accurate aim. Sometimes when I watch him and I'm specking him, I don't understand how he can do it. He's so accurate and he's so precise, even when he's on Zarya. It's out of control, and you have to give him credit for that. You can't take that away from him. So, with how strong their goats is, we know they hate silver goats. Super talks about it all the time because he's a spicy boy. But if they're so good at traditional goats that you might just want to keep Sinatra in, because I love Striker. Do not get me wrong. I love Striker. But if it's a choice between Striker and Sinatra, most people would pick Sinatra. He's just better, and I don't remember. Striker didn't play a lot of Sombra last season. That was Mistakes was the Sombra guy. He's the best. So you have to wonder, is he practicing it, or is he staying with mostly Tracer and Widowmaker, which is what he was known for last year? Safer bet is Sinatra.
Yeah. I would agree. I think that one of the reasons we've seen San Francisco struggle as much as they have this stage, I mean, they lost to Houston. They almost lost to Atlanta in the opening game. I really think that their hesitation to play Sombra Goats may have been part of the reason that they're struggling a little bit. They're not able to adapt it as well. That being said, Sinatra, the past two stages, has showed us that he's putting on an MVP candidate worthy stage so far, halfway through this second season of the Overwatch League. But if he can't play that Sombra Goats and they can't find a way to counter the Sombra Goats by playing their goats, then I think you have to move on to other options. If Sinatra's not going to be able to take on that role as well as someone else, even if he has been playing insanely well, tactically on paper it might be the best idea to switch him. But in an opposite vein, I think it might mess up some chemistry. It might mess up some synergy. I figured that's what you're going to talk about. So
yeah, I completely agree. That is exactly the point I was going to make. Is that so? I mean, I watched both of San Francisco's games very closely this week, just writing recaps for them. And they play Houston one game. Houston is a surging Sombra Goats team. It's kind of their bread and butter at this point, and they're going to keep running it. And San Francisco hugely struggles with their Sinatra lineup. We'll just call it their current lineup. And then they play Seoul, who is, for some reason, not playing Michelle on Sombra, which is the one kind of lineup they've had great Sombra success with. I don't know why they're not going back to that, but that's, I'm not a coach in the Overwatch League. So I don't know. Yeah, yet. So, and they roll over Seoul. So I guess something I would want to consider, at the end of the day, chemistry is going to be a huge thing. You do not want to mess up the Sinatra super kind of brotherhood thing they have going on where they're just like super tight, and you almost become like reflexive when you play with players enough, it seems like. So you don't want to tamper with that, but at the same time, if you have Striker on the bench, who is a arguably world-class tracer kind of player who presumably can play Sombra too, better than Sinatra can, maybe you consider rotating him in some maps against teams like Houston, who are going to run the Sombra Goats against you that you have not figured out a strategy for, and just see what happens. I mean, you've got the map wins, kind of the leeway, at least for now. If you landslide downwards, you won't, but I don't think anyone's anticipating that happening. So that's something I would personally consider with my smooth brain Overwatch knowledge personally. So it's definitely, they're going to be an interesting team to watch, though. I think you made a good point, Zach. I think it's if they figure out a way to counter it with their current goats, that's best case. You keep the synergy, you keep Sinatra in, it's all good. Great. But if you don't, I'm a big fan of Striker 2 Mallory, and that's where I would love to see him get some stage time. Everyone would. So, yeah. Either way, I think they're going to be fine. But go ahead.
I think, though, that if there is a team that can figure out how to counter Sombra Goats with Goats, it's got to be either San Francisco or the Titans. And so I think that they have the opportunity, and this is the one meta that we've seen in the Overwatch League Goats, that synergy matters the most. You can't rely on one player to just get big plays anymore. You don't have the ability for one player to simply just say, I'm picking up the team in this very moment and carrying them all on my back. We don't see that anymore. We see amazing tactical fights where teams are somehow on the same wavelength and don't even have to call out anything, and they somehow get this amazing play, and that's what you love to see. But in a meta where now Sombra's coming in, making things a little more difficult, do you take out your tried and true, synergetic team that you face? So
it's a tough debate for them and for a lot of teams. That's going to take us on to our third team. We're going to look at the boys in pink really quick. This one's tough. So we're looking at Hangzhou, and Hangzhou is a team that, by and large, has not opted to play Sombra. I think Godsby has played Sombra a little bit. Rhea almost none. So this would be another instance where the Zarya player is flexing onto the Sombra, not the Diva player or Diva-esque player. So, again, this is another kind of struggle for this team. Hangzhou has looked pretty good, in their recent bouts. I mean, they lose to Vancouver, which is expected.
Yeah.
And then they beat Washington, which is, again, pretty on par. But then last Sunday, they lose 0-3 to the Fuel. And I don't know if that's because of Sombra issues necessarily, but it still happened. So, actually, I'm looking at the wrong team. That is the Justice I was looking at, everyone. Hold the phone, they 4-0'd Philly. So, actually not bad at all.
Which they also should, because Philly is bad.
Again, everything's been pretty much on brand for them. This next week, they play the Fuel and the Dynasty, so that'll actually be a super interesting match. But with all this to say, what do you guys think Hangzhou's approach to this debate should be, given their current roster?
Let them play what they're going to play. I mean, I think that if you're Hangzhou, you have to be optimistic that you can make it A, to the stage playoffs, and B, a step further than you made it last time. You played an underperforming London team who were a little too confident going in to take that, and then had to play San Francisco. But I think I think they have a formula that's working for them so far. I mean, 2-1 so far this stage is not a bad result. That puts them on the same level as San Francisco right now. Yeah. So, yeah, I think we'll see Hangzhou make playoffs regardless of the decision that they make with Sombra Goats right now.
Mallory, what do you think? Anything else?
Yeah, a lot of the same. Yeah. I mean, if you're asking me, and I'm Darby Overwatch wants to see Bazzi play just once. But
yeah,
they look really good at what they do, especially they have one of like the strongest support lines, I would say, in a GOATS meta. IDK is out of control.
Yeah.
So you don't even need that extra damage when you have IDK who's out for blood.
That's true.
Pretty much all the time. Like Crew's Overwatch, but more in control because Crew's Overwatch is chaotic. So Hangzhou's, they're really good. They're gonna keep being good. I know we love to see it happen. I had faith in them last stage playoffs when nobody else did.
You did. I remember that. I remember that. Man, I was put in my place.
Because London, full of clowns.
They're my clowns, though.
You know, that's all right. You can have them. But, I think, Hangzhou doesn't really need to worry about Sombra Goats. They're so good at what they do right now that, I mean, just for fun. If it'll make Darby happy, then do it.
And I do want to see Bowsy play as well. I love him, mainly because of his tattoos. I like any player with tattoos, respect. So, I mean, you guys are right, though. I mean, they play the Fuel and the Dynasty next week, so that's probably a 1-1 or a 2-0, even if they're just playing vanilla Goats. Then they play the Valiant and the Mayhem, so that's another 1-1 or 2-0. So,
they're playoff.
So that's, I mean, if that's it, you can. This is kind of a question you can put off for now. You can wait and see if there's like this rumored 2-2-2 that they bring in stage 4, which would be insane, or if they do not want that, competitive integrity, do not want that.
Do not
or if there's some other meta change that comes through, like if they put 1.37 up and it has the McCree change, that could change stuff. But I mean, you can kind of table it, I think, is what we're kind of getting with this team. And I agree with you guys. They're kind of an oddity to look at. The next one, this could be a little interesting. This could just be a no-brainer too. So we're gonna talk about Houston. So we have the player of the week, and someone who's killing it in Dante on Sombra. They're kind of pioneering Sombra Goats. So this might be a really stupid question, but do you stop that? Do you mix in Sombra or Spree or Cool Matt just for unpredictability's sake, or do you continue where everyone knows what you're gonna do every week, but it's working, and keep doing it? So
you keep doing what you're doing if you're the Houston Outlaws. Dante is so good at what he does. When they were still not great in the beginning of stage 1 and 2, the wins that they got were on the back of Dante Overwatch doing what he does best, which is play Sombra and do it annoyingly, poke in the back line, make them mad, etc., etc. And for some reason, I can't figure out why they haven't been playing Linkser on Zarya this whole time. Linkser is out of control. He's so good. And for some reason, Spree is a really good Zarya too. You can't deny that. But Linkser is also killing it right now on Zarya. I miss Chili Matthew.
Man,
I love him very much. However, if it comes to doing this or switching it up just for funsies, you got to stick with this. If this is what's winning, if they're going to do whatever they want, put Jake back on, his damage heroes, let Linkser back on his damage heroes sometimes, let Dante be annoying, and, etc., etc. More Raucous Ana as well. That works for him so well. Raucous Ana is top tier, where Raucous Zenyatta is So you keep them doing what they're doing. Even if it's predictable, they still do it so well that teams can't handle it, as shown by what happened to my boys.
You don't change it. You can't. If you're going for unpredictability, you keep doing exactly what you're doing, because I don't think anyone in their right mind would have gone and said, who's going to be 2-1 coming into week 3?
That's true.
Houston. If someone would have told me Houston is going to be in the playoff picture for stage 3, I would have laughed at them. I think you have to stay exactly what you've been doing. It's been working. You beat the best team in the league, arguably. And you look ahead to their schedule. Next week, they're playing Paris, who, again, is another hot team. And then Florida, who's Florida. And then they have Washington and Toronto. I mean, you beat all those teams. You're in the stage playoffs. You're somehow fighting your way back to
season playoffs.
Even a season playoff spot with those play-ins that they're doing. So, I mean, I think if you're going for unpredictability, you're pioneering this meta. It's unpredictable. That's as unpredictable as it gets. If you're shaping and defining this new meta, don't switch it up. Dante has been.
I am going to also agree. There's no way I can play devil's advocate here. Mallory, I think you made a really, really good point. It's just kind of let your shooters shoot. Let them shoot their shot. This is what Chengdu did in stage 1. They're like, bleep the meta. We're just going to be Chengdu, and we're just going to do what we do and win. And they had relative success with it early on. Kind of shifting away from that when they adapted and formed the meta more is when they became worse, it seems like. So Houston's kind of doing that in reverse. They're like, we're going to play goats and suck. And now they're like, that's not working. And now they're just like, we're going to do what we want. And they're winning. So, and this is a similar point to New York as well, is if you play people like Linkser, Jake, and Dante, you've got 3 solid DPS players in who then you can play DPS rotations with, like New York can now do. So it offers a flexibility, just kind of a different kind of flexibility. And I agree with you guys. I think it still makes them unpredictable as any other team right now. So, and you can't reasonably take him out when he's arguably the best player in that character in the league right now, besides maybe Ding with Shanghai. So, yeah.
Gotta throw
also,
in
yes,
the conversation.
yes, that's fair. Next team we're going to look at, another chaotic team, one of the teams that's just completely unpredictable each week. Kate's in chat. She's going to love this. We're going to talk about the Philadelphia Fusion. Okay.
Philly.
All right. Philly has kind of equaled bad right now. But, okay, if you're Philly, Kate, we're here for you, okay? We're going to make a case that's going to make Philly better. We're going to come up with something right here in the next 5 minutes that Philly is going to be a better team because of our conversation. They listen to it. So,
they're going to play Fraggy?
Okay, so if you're Philly, you have Carpe, who's arguably one of the best DPS players in the world. If you can get on DPS, he is a serviceable Sombra. I think he has proven serviceable. He had a pretty good week last week. Poco, who is also a serviceable Zarya. You have 2 of those. That's weird. And they're kind of classic diva player. You don't have a dedicated Sombra necessarily. EQO is projectile, so he's not filling that for you, really. I don't know that he ever has. Kate, you could educate me if I'm wrong. And then you have other pieces of the roster, like Fraggy, who's been in and out, mainly just out, though. And, yeah, I'm reading chat as well. It's hilarious. Thanks, Kate. So, if you're Philly, you guys, this is for you two, and Kate, I assume you will chime in on this as well. You've got Poco and Carpe as kind of your 2 main options, reasonably, for Sombra, if you're going to do that. Do you really put one of them on Sombra, like on constant Sombra duty right now, and try and work that into your lineup? Or do you just keep being Philly and hope that something else changes? What do you guys think you should do if you're Philly?
I have a lot of emotions.
Okay, give me your emotions.
Probably because I am such good friends with Kate, and we watched that Boston Philly game together. She's right. Poco is the Zarya specialist. Right. We just don't see it because he plays Diva. Last year, he was like, everyone was like, Poco Bomb, Diva Bomb, Poco Bomb, Diva Bomb. So him on Zarya is a wonderful idea. In fact, I am going to say it. He dunked on Boston on Zarya. From the top rope, did he drop that Graviton Surge down, and then the entire team just died. And I watched it through my tears. And Carpe, who's like one of the best DPS players, as like you said, should be on Sombra more. Because his DPS in general is out of control. And he was doing really well. If they're not going to put in Fraggy, and they're not going to try to run traditional goats with their Reinhardt specialist, who's been warming the bench for almost 3.5 stages now. Yeah. Do the Sombra goats. You know, at least if Sato's jumping around and dying all the time, at least Carpe can kill people instead of worrying about him. Like, let him go up. Same with Neptuno. Neptuno is one of the best battle mercies in the game. Let them kill things. And if Sato's going to be Sato, then he'll be Sato elsewhere.
Yeah, I have similar I have thoughts. It seems like the same themes are echoing through our conversations about these teams. So it's kind of like we're at a point in the meta where shoot your shot. For San Francisco, they're fortunate where shooting their shot is playing goats, which is arguably the most meta composition right now. For Houston, that's becoming Sombra goats, which is becoming even more meta, it seems like. For Philly, we just haven't seen them shoot their shot, so to speak, in so long. You have Carpe, who's arguably... I don't know if he had a big salary initially, but he's going to be probably re-upped for a big one. He's your biggest name player, arguably. Put him on DPS. I mean, put him on Sombra if that's what it takes. I mean, he's got an hour of playtime on Sombra this season. I think Poco's got 30 minutes. So between the team, you have an hour and a half, which is really low. I don't know what the total numbers of the league, but I assume that's close to the lowest, down there with like San Francisco and Vancouver probably. So, I mean, I just, this seems like something that is just a problem that's kind of running into all the teams. The resistance to go away from the meta that's been so deeply ingrained into them, and that system of playing, that style of playing that's become so innate throughout the league, to just kind of shrugging your shoulders down and playing your way. So that would be my only suggestion. That's kind of like, I don't know, more metaphorical and can be interpreted a lot of different ways, but you just want to see Philly play their way more, have a little bit more fun. Kind of like what Rockus and Jake were saying, like you play better when your mentality's better and you're having more fun as a team. I think Philly could use some of that chemistry going on. So, Zach, do you have any closing thoughts on that one, or good?
It's too late for Philly to shoot their shot. I think they've really... I hate to say this because we love Kate, but it's too late, you know? They tried something, it didn't work, and then they didn't change. And I think it's too late for them to make the big change that could potentially see them do something, but unless they're willing to do something drastic, I think they really need to look at their options going forward and figure out what the best thing to do is for season 2020 is.
That's pretty doom and gloom, but I mean, it makes sense. I mean, you do have Alarm coming up, presumably for them in 2020, who's going to be a top probably 10 player in the league, top 5 Zenyatta, top 3 maybe. So yeah, I mean that's a reasonable take, but I mean standings wise, they're not out of it. I mean, they're gonna probably be in the playoffs. They're they're low this stage, but overall they're at the 10 spot. So I mean, if they can kind of limp through the rest of the season and play on par with the other teams in the middle of the table, they can probably make playoffs and maybe make a late run. But yeah, it's...
If something bad happens, you know, I think that if they crash out and they don't make the playoffs, and as much as Carpe, you want to keep him on the team, and some of these other guys, Fusion University has really proved themselves. So maybe it's time to... I don't know if it's time to dump all the roster or most of the roster or some of the roster, but you got those Fusion University guys. They really have shown that they're Overwatch League level. So
yeah,
who knows what they're going to do in that case?
It's definitely interesting. That's going to be one of the that's going to be one of the tougher kind of scenarios to watch play out, and one of the ones I think with the most question marks around it for sure. For the sake of time, we'll keep moving. We've got 2 teams left. We've covered 5. We've got 2 more. And the next one is very near and dear to a third of our show's hearts. This is going to be the Boston Uprising, where they've had issues recently, I think it's safe to say. And Mallory, I'm sure you're going to have some words about this. But, I mean, you...
Wait, they've had issues? Yeah. Where are they in the standings?
Anyway, so, I mean, you bring in RCK... to presumably have more flex than Note. That seemed like that was kind of the deal, was you're getting more flexibility than Note had. And so what's happened with RCK and Boston? Should they play Goat? Should they not? Mallory, I'll probably let you take us away on this one.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for your time and appreciation. So here's the deal. RCK is good at Sombra. I think RCK is better at Sombra than he is at D.Va. Not that he's a bad D.Va, but like if you're used to Note, who's like a very good D.Va, like very mechanically skilled D.Va, and you just like switch to RCK, he's not a bad D.Va. He's just better at Sombra. However, I don't think that's the issue with Boston, and that's a whole thing I could get into. So I can keep it short and sweet. I don't think Sombra Goats is the solution or the problem for Boston. Right now, it's a lot of support stuff, and I know that they're going to be playing Persia over Aim God for their rest of the stage. So what we're looking at is if if they want to keep running normal goats, then RCK just has to practice more, and they just need more synergy with Persia. If he wants to play Sombra, which he definitely can, they just have to integrate themselves on that level of teams like Shanghai, who I think was like the first Sombra Goats team and is, I think, the best Sombra Goats team, but I don't know if that's just me. He's shown that he's good at it, because that one time when they beat the Gladiators, they won that first map because of RCK. He had a stall
Yeah,
that
it
was
was
like
nuts.
2 minutes long.
It was
the most
wild.
out of
Yeah, I
control
remember that.
thing. He was buck wild, and
Yeah.
that was all him. So we know it's there. Right now, they're just suffering from some synergy stuff. So I think Sombra Ghost is maybe their best bet right now. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just sad. How about that?
That's good insight, though. It makes sense. Zach, you have anything to add? We've heard from the Boston experts. So
I mean, yeah, I don't think I can sum it up better than that. I don't watch much Boston games except for when they play the Gladiators, which actually I didn't watch that game because I needed that one covered.
Boom.
So.
They won. It's the last game they ever won. It's fine.
Ever. It's like you're cursing them or something.
So, if you're Boston, I will say, I mean, you've got a tough game likely on Thursday against San Francisco. After that, you've got Paris, which is a winnable game. Paris is off and on, it seems like. Yeah. And then you've got Philly, which, from our conversation earlier, at this rate could be winnable.
Philly,
but there is also a chance that those 3 games get dropped, which is in the realm of possibilities. So, basically, Boston this is a pretty important point, especially after Thursday, for them to kind of either kick it into high gear or they're going to probably fall off. So I agree with you, though, Mallory. I think RCK is better at Sombra, so play Sombra. That's just that's becoming my mantra with a lot of teams, is just do what you're best at. So, but let's close it out as far as our teams go with another team that's near and dear to a third of our hearts here, and this is the LA Gladiators. Shields up. We've got Surefour and Decay, who are both, I would say, good Sombras. Surefour definitely has proven that. Decay's an insane DPS, so I'd assume the same. Haven't seen a ton personally, but so I mean, what do you do if you are the Gladiators with 2 good Sombras? I mean, they've been running more Sombra, I believe, lately. But Zach, kind of talk us through what your thoughts are for the Gladiators here on this one.
I'm gonna go with something you probably didn't expect me to say, and I'm gonna say Gladiators not to Sombra right now. I have seen, as I've watched these past 4 games the Gladiators have played, we've seen the return of Surefour to the starting lineup, because there's Decay. I sound biased because I'm a Gladiators fan, but I think individually Decay is the rookie of the year for the Overwatch League. As much as you could say that any of the Titans guys are, it's a little hard to give it, because if you want to give it to the Titans, you kind of have to give it to all of them. I think that Decay has been the biggest addition to this team, and just the most. He should be player of the match every match, and so you want to let him still do what he can do. You've got Surefour returning, actually playing Brig, and actually playing Brig well, which is Hydration was not a bad Brig, and I liked seeing Hydration play Brig, but Surefour has really shown that he can do it. He can really step up and do that, and I think that allows you, as we've seen, to have some interesting comps on 2CP where for some reason the Gladiators sub in Hydration for Void, the Diva player, and you see Paris maps where Hydration is running Orisa, and we're seeing some strange bunker cops. So you've got some fun compositions coming out from the Gladiators where they have depth. While they have not had to use their depth, they have an insane third finish support who has seen 11 minutes and 7 seconds of playtime in the Overwatch League. You have Bishu, who just returned from a stint with the Gladiators Legion, which, as much as I love Bishu, and as good as he is, Void has been an absolute mainstay in this team, and there's no way you can replace him. When I was writing about the beginning of the season, I was saying, I don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to have both Bishu and Void play? Is one going to play Zarya, one going to play Diva? But he's insane. The Finnish supports are insane, and we've got Decay, and we haven't even talked about Pankers who's on that 2-way contract just because he can, The Gladiators haven't needed him because, as inconsistent as Roar has been, he's been a pretty good main tank for them. And so, as good as Surefour is on Sombra, and as sure as I am that we're going to see him play Sombra against Shanghai at least, I mean, Gladiators took care of Shanghai last time. I think it was 3-1, and I expect a similar result. Shanghai has been bringing a lot of DPS, and I think that the Gladiators can match that, but also match it with their goats. I think Decay on Zarya, if Sinatra wasn't in the league, would probably be the best Zarya player, and Surefour back in the lineup really just gives them that versatility because he can play Sombra, or you see the strange things they do on Paris, which apparently is the new home of the Gladiators.
Maui, do you have anything else on that one? Yeah.
I like Surefour. Does that sound fair?
Absolutely fair.
I like Wayne Roberts. They should play him if they want to. I like to see him on stage.
All
Send
right.
tweet.
I agree. I think. I mean, I can't argue with anything you said. I think it's. You're totally right. I think something I'd like to see them do. I mean, you have so much established synergy with people like Void and Decay, for example, or Decay and Roar. Sorry. I would love to see a similar kind of synergy developed with like Bishu and Panker, where like you almost do like a 2-for-2 sub occasionally if you needed that. But with how good Decay and Roar are, I don't see the need for that happening. But maybe a future move kind of thing to use those two-way players.
I think it would be a good idea. I think you look at what I think the extreme of what's happening is you look at Seoul, who has two completely different rosters. But I mean, I honestly was a little surprised that the Gladiators made 0 substitutions in their game against Washington. Granted, that game, the scoreline does not reflect, like, the Gladiators should not have 4-0'd that. The Washington played pretty well considering that the Gladiators 4-0'd. However, I thought that if there was going to be a game this stage, that Bishu was going to get reintroduced or Ripa was going to have a chance to play, like, it was going to be the Washington game. But they didn't even sub Hydration. Like, that didn't happen. Maybe that's because they weren't playing on Paris, but I wouldn't be mad about, like, in maybe one of the games if they play Florida again, or if they're playing Washington, or some of the teams that, like, if they've already secured a playoff spot, if like say stage 4 rolls around, they for sure have their playoff locked in. Just get them some experience. That's both going to help show you if they're Overwatch League ready or if you want to keep them in contenders. And if they are Overwatch League ready and they're not going to stay in the team, that's going to help their stock increase, which is only going to help the player and the team as they're looking to trade them on if that happens. Yeah. So I mean, I want Roar to play better. He plays a lot better when he plays Winston, but he's really improved from where he was stage 1 of the season. So
I totally agree, and as a Gladiators fan, you know all too well the possibility of a player maybe deciding they just don't want to play when playoffs roll around, where there could be some value in having your backups have some play time. Not that they have a fissure in their team right now, but just that
we all see how that worked out for Fissure.
Man, yikes.
Where has he been all season?
Marvel's pretty good, turns out. So, but I agree. That they're a team that they're kind of like San Francisco and New York, where they have enough depth where I think they can lean on it and adapt to the meta as they need to. But right now, they don't really need to. I mean, they're top of the league, so I think your assessment on that's spot on. So, that's going to be our 7 teams for our to Sombra or to not Sombra. That is the question. So, to close out the show, we'll just cover up some quick news that you may have missed since the last time we were on air on Thursday. And then we'll kind of depart with some words of wisdom from the three of us. Our impromptu section where we say something philosophical or just something we want to say as a last word. So, before that, we get to the news. Florida Mayhem, I think it was today. Time moves quick these days. Signed Rain, who is a main support from O2 Blast. But I don't even think he was the starting main support. I think he was just a main support. I don't know. I could be wrong on that, but I've been trying to read the community's perception of this pickup because I don't know a lot about Rain, and it's been pretty negative, as with a lot of other pickups from Florida recently. So I don't know if you guys have anything on this one. We don't have to cover it a ton because I don't think a lot of people know much about Rain. If anyone in chat does, feel free to educate us.
I think it'll be somewhat similar to what London did by picking up Krillin, a relatively unknown player that, like, in theory, you probably don't have to pay that much for. Probably offer him the minimum contract. Just if it works out, it works out. If not, it's a gamble in the future that you didn't lose a ton. So I think Florida really has just kind of realized that this again is not their season, and that they're going to have to really, really switch things up as interestingly as they've done that.
And that's where I wonder, like, if you're building for next season, just wait till the off season. Just do a full rebuild. I mean, kind of do what you did last off season again, but actually do it right, not with bare hands behind the wheel. So, coughed off, get him out of there. But so I mean, I don't know. So that's something to consider. But in any case, it happened. So maybe we'll see Rain get on stage a little bit. Maybe in stage 4, whenever he gets over here from Korea. So, other news, NA Contenders started today with NA West action. NA East will be on Wednesday, same times as tonight. I think it's like 5 to 10 Central is when games are generally happening, so definitely support Contenders. And then the last thing, we finally got lore. We got lore, guys. We got some lore today. We got some Baptiste lore that is pretty exciting. That is going to have a new skin for him, a new epic skin that is similar to the Honest skin that was released previously, where you have to win 9 games to get it. They confirmed that in a developer update today. And there also might be some hints as to Hero 31 in that document. You guys saw the tank that they're considering teasing or whatever it is?
I did not, because I'm apparently bad at reading.
So they didn't like outright say it was going to be him. But Jeff in the developer update said, you may or may not be seeing more of this character soon to come. He really made it seem like this was our guy. And I mean, he was like in the document with guns, like with 2 like kind of big, light, like a Gatling gun kind of things on his arms. He looks very tanky. He looks like he probably has like a front-facing shield. Kind of like a hybrid between maybe like an Orisa and a DPS or something like that. Yeah, any theories that you guys have about this hero? Like, what, is this the hero, or are we going to get Echo or someone else? Do you guys have any thoughts in general?
Talent tank.
Talent
tank. That's what I want. That's what we need. I don't think it's going to be Echo, because Jeff keeps saying over and over again, the next hero's not Echo, the next hero's not Echo. If that was some sort of weird bait, like, it's not Echo, and then he's like, surprise, it is Echo, we'd all be like, Jeff, then what's the point, Jeff? Like, no, I think it's going to be the new one. We need a new tank anyways. And a talent tank, well, so many people, like myself, have been waiting for a talent tank for so long. So I will be very excited and very, very happy if this is where it's going.
Yeah, I think...
As long as they keep releasing more heroes,
that's
I'm
the
happy.
End of the day. We'd love to see one more than every 3 months. I think everyone's on a uniform level of agreement there. Maybe a new tank can at least shift the way Goats looks. I don't think a tank would be what breaks Goats, necessarily breaks Goats. May not ever break. But at least it could make it look different. You could have more iterations of it. That, I think, would be enough for people. But I don't think Goats is breaking until we get a roll lock. But that's probably another discussion for another night.
Ooh, we can talk about that next week.
Maybe we will talk about that next week. We will see if there's any shred of news about roll lock. We will dissect it to the bitter end. So be ready for that, listeners. We've got 5 minutes left. It's time, as we close the show, we're winding down. We're getting sleepy. It's late. You guys are getting tired. So it's time to, in our tired sleep states, dispense some WatchHaus words of wisdom for you all. Again, this is a point in the show where we just kind of tell you something you should be keeping an eye out for in the Overwatch League, some strategy or something, something profound from, the minds of our writing staff here, or just something philosophical about life. I'm pretty open with what this could be. So if either of you have anything in mind right now, go ahead and drop it on us. If not, I can wing something.
I've got one. Never give up unless you're Florida, Washington, or potentially Philly. Because you had a bottom team coming into the stage. absolutely just
That's
flip
true.
it on its head and maybe make it a stage playoff. So, sometimes a very, very small change in patches is all you need. And Houston have really shown that like they were down and out, but they haven't given
Yep.
up. So
Mallory.
those are my wise words.
Mallory, what do you have for us tonight?
Zach scared me for a second. Thought he was...
About to drop the Boston word for the give up teams? Is that what you thought? No, I didn't say it.
Don't you... One, watch contenders. Always. Support tier 2 Overwatch, or else I will come into your home and I will make you watch it with a banana. 2, be nice. How about that?
Be nice.
Just be nice to people. It's so fun to be nice to people. And you'll realize that if you're nice to people. So just
be nice for it.
be nice.
I've got a couple things as well. One, a cool thing to go check out on Twitter. The team I was formerly with, Chicken Contendies, not had affiliations with for a long time, was recently brought into, I think it's called Grunto Esports. This is an esports organization run by war veterans. It's a really cool thing. This is their foray into Overwatch, is kind of the buying a team house and sponsoring Chicken Contendies. Unfortunately, we lose the Contendies name and branding, which is actually the most tragic thing in the world.
Moment of silence.
Man. F's in the chat for Chicken Contendies. But Grunto is, I think, going to be a really cool thing. I'm hoping they do well, and I hope that this is just a cool way for veterans and armed forces to get involved with esports and Overwatch. This could be a really cool gateway to those two communities. I've always thought gaming and those sorts of things could be a great relief at a VA or something in certain scenarios. So anyway, that's one thing. The second thing is a hot take. This is my last hot take here. I think that the Houston Outlaws, the Los Angeles Valiant, and the Guangzhou Charge are all going to be in the Stage 3 playoffs, and that 2 of those 3 teams are going to make the season playoffs. That is my hot take. That's some spice. That's some spice.
Oh,
that's some spice.
Wow.
Italian fan until the day I die, but let me tell you something. That's
spicy.
The
one I'm really nervous about is the Charge. But I almost know for a fact that Houston and the Valiant are going to be in the stage playoffs at this point. I'm just so confident. The Charge are my sneaky kind of pick after that. I would anticipate that teams like Paris, Hangzhou, and maybe Seoul could slip out. NYXL, Vancouver, and Shock are locks. And probably Gladiators as well. And then I would anticipate maybe 3 of those other teams being from the 3 that I listed. So, and then season playoffs, it's within reach. If you look at the games and you kind of calculate it out, those 3 teams could all make a run. They're at 16, 17, 18 right now. And those 3 teams could overtake Chengdu, Paris, Philly, Dallas, Toronto, those kinds of teams. So, that was a really long word of wisdom for me. Not really any wisdom there, just a hot take and a thing. So, my bad.
Bold
also bold as heck. So, I don't have anything else, though. I think we've had a great show tonight. We've talked about some cool Sombra stuff. We've talked about the games from the previous week. We've had some hot takes, some good stuff. As always, we've got our beat writing team here at the Game Haus. We have a beat writer for each of the 20 teams. We have the largest Overwatch writing staff in the world, covering every game like no one else is. It's awesome. We've got a video staff doing great video stuff. Go to our website, support us, click our pieces. That is the best way to support us, honestly. Follow our Twitters, which are below our names right here. So we'll be back Thursday. We've got like 4 shows in a row on Thursday on this channel now. But specifically Overwatch content, we've got Escorting the Payload at 4:30 Central Time, or 3:30 Central Time. 3:30. And then 4:30, we've got the WatchHaus preview show, which we have our spicy picks of the week. Shy Guys on that one. Ethan and Mallory are there. That's a really fun show as well. So definitely check Ethan and Darby. God, not Mallory. Sorry. Man, I really blew that. Really ending strong here. I'm very tired. All right, so my name's Connor. Thank you so much to my co-hosts, Zach and Mallory, for joining me tonight. As always, you're going to see a lot more of us as we get into a more regular rotation, so we're excited to recap all the games with you. And until next time, we'll see you guys next Monday. Have a good night. Bye.